shown, no clapping in this hall. I hope that's understood. Representative Wheeler.
Thank you, Chairman Cordelli, friends, colleagues on the House Education, Policy, and Administration Committee. For the record, my name is Representative Jonah O'Ryan Wheeler. I represent the towns of Peterborough and Sharon. This is my second term in the legislature. The legislation that we have before us here is about the definition of what an adequate education is. And to me, in the 21st century, technology, engineering, that is an adequate education. To me, in the 21st century, the things that we have here in this legislation, whether they be the technology and the education, the computer science and digital literacy, personal finance literacy, arts education and musical and visual arts, world languages, civics, government, economics, geography, history, Holocaust and genocide education, all of those things which have been struck from this bill, this law that are trying to become law is striking this. The legislature, the record, my colleagues on the House.
Representative Wheeler.
Thank you, Chairman Cordelli.
I hope that's understood. Representative Wheeler. There will be no emotion shown, no clapping in this hall. I hope that's understood. Representative Wheeler.
Thank you, Chairman Cordelli, friends, colleagues on the House Education, Policy, and Administration Committee. For the record, my name is Representative Jonah O'Ryan Wheeler. I represent the towns of Peterborough and Sharon. This is my second term in the legislature. The legislation that we have before us here is about the definition of what an adequate education is. And to me, in the 21st century, technology, engineering, that is an adequate education. To me, in the 21st century, the things that we have here in this legislation, whether they be the technology and the education, the computer science and digital literacy, personal finance literacy, arts education and musical and visual arts, world languages, civics, government, economics, geography, history, Holocaust and genocide education, all of those things which have been struck from this bill, this law that are trying to become law is striking this from this bill. That's all part of an adequate education. We know, if you walk the streets, the lack of civics education that exists here in the state now. We need to be boosting civics education, not getting rid of it as a requirement. We need to be boosting our technological education standards, not getting rid of them as requirements. This is the 21st century. And while, as Representative McGuire said, getting rid of this from chaptered law may not mean that every student in the state doesn't get taught these important subjects, what it does mean is for the schools who can't afford these subjects that they will drop them from the list. And to answer your question, Representative Hall, that does create a situation of the haves and the have-nots. I come from Conval, a very well-funded school. 10 minutes down the road is Conant, a very well underfunded school, just because of the property taxes in that district. If we were to get rid of these requirements, a school like Conant would say, well, we don't have to require these things, we're not going to teach them anymore. And then those kids are set back even farther than they already are from the lack of equal education that we have here in our state. So let's not set our kids back in the state of New Hampshire. Let's make sure they have an adequate education that meets the needs of the 21st century. I urge you to oppose this bill. Thank you, Chairman Cordelli.
Thank you, Representative Wheeler. Representative, we have a question from Representative Selig.
Thank you, and thank you for taking my question. As one of our youngest, although no longer the youngest, members of the House, of this body, would you say that civics education or some other aspect of your education had an influence in your choosing to run for office as an 18-year-old?
Well, I was bad at school, so I want to answer it truthfully. But what I can say is the lack of a civics education means that my students, the people who are my peers, don't know what's going on. They say, you're in politics, Jonah, but they have no idea what we do here in the legislature. And we're so connected to the people here, Representative Selig, as we see here, with all those that came out to testify and the 28,000 that came to sign in on this piece of legislation. It's so important to have people civically engaged in their government because we are the government. And the more that we can teach that and the more that we can make the principles of this United States Constitution and the Constitution of the state of New Hampshire known to everybody, the better off our country will be.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, Representative Nato.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for coming here and testifying. So a good leader is a good listener. And they also listen to the people who work for them and to get the good ideas, how to make the machine work. So my question is there a general consensus of what is the core problem of why we're doing so not so good in some subjects? Is it the curriculum? Is there a curriculum change? Is there distraction? I mean, I'm looking for answers from teachers, and I've talked to a few, and I'm still getting some information, but what is the core that we need to look at?
Representative Nadeau, that's a great question. There are teachers and parents and principals and representatives behind me who could probably answer it better, but what I'd say is, and I know this is a controversial subject, but the State House at least voted on a nonpartisan basis to move forward some legislation around this in the last biennium. I'd say the state has forked its responsibility to adequately fund our public schools over the course of so many decades, and if we were to adequately fund our public schools, then the gaps that we're seeing in the public schools would not exist as much as we do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Kluger.
I'm trying to pull away.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Representative. I just wanted to make sure that I've heard you correctly. Would you concur that an illustrator, an architect, a graphic designer would benefit from art classes in high school?
Absolutely, Representative. It's so important. We think of art, oh, just sketches on paper. But as Representative Selig pointed out in her question to the prime sponsor, art, education, these what are called elective subjects in school are sometimes the most important subject of the day because of the career path that it might lead someone on, just drawing on paper and building buildings. I have a few peers of mine who are going off into architecture because of the amazing drawings that they draw as a kid, and you could tell that they'd be in architecture today just based off those drawings. But it also is important because that's sometimes the only respite that a student has throughout the day is that moment with the art teacher, the freedom they get in a music class. The specials and the specialist subjects are so important for our kids so that we're not putting them in a box and making education so rigid as you put Representative Woodcock.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Thank you,
Representative
Chairman
Wheeler.
Cordelli.
Next is the Honorable Jay Kahn, followed